Oh, psychics, those mystical beings with supernatural powers and abilities. They claim to have extrasensory perception, allowing them to tap into the realm far beyond our feeble human mind, or rather senses. Oh, how fortunate we are to have individuals who can see into the past, present and the future, all with a wave of their psychic wand or whatever. Now, there are different types of psychic abilities, ranging from clairvoyance, telepathy, precognition, mediumship and psychometry. So allow me to tell you a word or two about each and every one of them. Now, clairvoyance, or clear seeing as it's called in those circles, that's when you receive the visions, from the great beyond. And after you receive those visions, then you interpret them as you see fit. You're essentially a puzzle solver. Someone goes missing, bam, there's a vision about it. Someone lost something, bam, you got a vision about it. Wham, bam, shazam, thank you, man. Next up we have telepathy, the mind reading thing. Now, why use words, gestures and eye contact when you can just instantly dump your info into someone else's brain? It's like having a 5G connection with everyone. The only catch is that the person who's receiving that information needs to be a capable individual, who can understand and interpret all of that. Next one, precognition, seeing far into the future. The best one out there for all the future psychic gamblers, which I'm sure there are many of. It's just that they're hiding from government or whoever. Again, step aside, Nostradamus. There's a new sheriff, there are new sheriffs in town. Next up, mediumship, or in other words, speaking with the dead, deceased. You forgot something to say to your deceased loved one? No worries, we got you covered. With a direct hotline to a great beyond and beyond the beyond, you can talk to whoever you wanna. Teacher gave you an assignment to interpret the line from one of the greatest Shakespeare's tragedies. The ones, what does the author mean by this line? Well, why not ask the man directly? The possibilities are endless. And last but not least, psychometry, the power of touching something and knowing its secrets. Imagine the crime-solving possibilities with this power. Just by touching the gun, you know how it all went down or whatever. You could essentially be a modern-day version of a Sherlock Holmes. Just don't touch any sex items. That might be bad because reasons. Now that we've gotten that all out of the way, we can continue with the main story, which is about the most famous modern-day psychic, I'd say. You'll figure it out.
She's back! How could we kick off 2007 without Sylvia Browne's prediction? Your favorite celebrity. How about Nicole Kidman and her brand new husband,
It's not gonna last.
Your health.
Polio, whooping cough, and all that is coming back.
Politics and the economy, and especially the things we should all watch out for.
Listen to me very carefully. I'm so worried about the ports.
Ringing in the new year with psychic Sylvia Browne on the next One Time.
World-renowned psychic and spiritual leader Sylvia Browne passed away at the age of 77, leaving behind the legacy of false predictions, inaccurate readings, and exorbitant fees. Browne, who have claimed to have supernatural abilities and communicate with the dead, had a distinctive voice, flamboyant personality, and outrageous claim. I mean, what evidence? That's for plebeians. I can see what happened already. In fact, I can feel it in my bones. Despite the mounting evidence of her fraudulence, Browne amassed a large following and profited from the pain and suffering of vulnerable people. She wrote 50 books, made countless TV show appearances, and charged exorbitant fees for her services. Why constrain yourself with ethics when you can earn a quick buck off of people's grief and desperation? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First things first. Who is Sylvia Browne, and how did she become such a powerful psychic? Sylvia Browne was born Sylvia Celeste Shoemaker in Kansas City, Missouri on October 19, 1936. She claimed to have been born with a veil over her face, which supposedly gave her special psychic abilities. Her mother, Celeste, was a homemaker, and her father, William Lee Shoemaker, was a telegraph operator and truck driver. Browne's childhood was reportedly marked by the abuse and neglect. She claimed that she was sexually abused by her grandfather and that her mother was physically abusive. She also claimed that she was frequently visited by ghosts and spirits, which she believed were trying to communicate with her. Browne dropped out of high school at the age of 14 and got married to a man named Gary Dufresne. The marriage was short-lived, and Browne soon remarried a man named Larry Beck, with whom she had 2 children, Paul and Christopher. Browne divorced Beck in the 70s and married her 3rd husband, Michael Uleary. It's all quite baffling that even with all of her powers of precognition, she couldn't see that her first 2 marriages would not work out. Or is it that she willingly went in those marriages knowing that just in order to, gain the experience? Maybe she thought her powers would level up. Anyway, who am I to know what goes in the mind of a great fortune teller such as herself? In the early years of her career, Browne worked as a secretary and a model. She claimed to have first discovered her psychic abilities at the age of 3, when she had her first vision of her grandfather's death. However, it wasn't until the 1960s that she began working as a professional psychic and spiritual counselor. Browne founded the Nirvana Foundation for Psychic Research in 1974, which was later renamed the Sylvia Browne Corporation. She also wrote her first book, Adventures of a Psychic, in 1986, which became a bestseller. From then, Browne's career as a psychic and spiritual leader took off, and she became a fixture on TV talk shows and in the media. She is mostly remembered by her frequent appearances on the Montel Williams show. One could even say that Montel Williams opened the door for Browne and made her a household name. Down the line, she also appeared on Larry King, Oprah, and even Jay Leno. In one of her most notorious predictions, Browne claimed that Amanda Berry, who had been abducted in 2003 at the age of 16, was dead. However, Berry was found alive in 2013, along with 2 other women who have been held captive for years. But hey, who needs accuracy when you can just throw out guesses and hope something sticks? Browne was also criticized for giving a false hope to the families, and we'll get to that. In 2007, she claimed that Sean Hornbeck, a missing boy who disappeared 2 years ago, was also dead. However, Hornbeck was found alive along with another boy who went missing quite recently.
Browne told the distraught parents that Sean was dead and told them in great detail where to search for his body.
The guy was dark-skinned. Although he wasn't black, he was more Hispanic looking. Had real long dark hair, and strange enough Hispanic, but he had dreadlocks.
Then Sylvia Browne confirmed their worst fears.
Is he still with us?
Thankfully, Sean Hornbeck was found last week alive and well.
But hey, at least she gave families a closure, right? Now, Browne's inaccuracies and false predictions didn't stop her from profiting from her supposed abilities. Oh no, she charged around $700 for only a 20-minute reading. And she even convinced people to buy her books, CDs and other merchandises. She knew well how to market herself, and she did it splendidly, sucking out every penny from confused and grieving people. Hey, if people are willing to buy a load of bullshit, I mean, why not give it to them, right? She also preyed on people's fears and anxieties, claiming to have some special insight into health problems and financial issues. She also claimed to have cured people of cancer and other medical illnesses, despite having no medical knowledge or training whatsoever. In fact, she claimed, nay, she predicted that the cure for cancer would be found by the end of the year 1998. And, spoiler alert, it wasn't found. Doctors, step aside and make way for Sylvia and her touchy-feely healing method. Cures everything from cavities to cancer. In one infamous case, she told a mother of a missing child that her kid was in the water and not alive anymore. The mother, who was in the audience on the show where she said that, later stated that she was devastated by this prediction and that it in fact hindered the search for her missing daughter. But hey, at least Browne got some publicity out of it, right? Another, one could argue even more infamous or rather notorious prediction Browne made was with the disappearance of Opal Jo Jennings. Opal Jo Jennings was a 4-year-old girl from Texas who went missing on May 21st, 1999. Her disappearance sparked a massive search effort with thousands of volunteers and law enforcement officials scouring the area for any sign of her. At the time of her disappearance, Opal was playing outside her grandmother's house in Saginaw, suburb of Fort Worth. Her grandmother was inside the house at the time, and when she went outside a few minutes later, Opal was nowhere to be found. The search for Opal continued for weeks, with helicopters, search dogs and volunteers combing through the area. However, there were no leads or clues to her whereabouts. In 2002, 3 years after Opal's disappearance, Sylvia Browne appeared on Montel Williams' show and claimed that she had a vision of Opal's location. She told Opal's mother that Opal is in fact alive, but was kidnapped and taken somewhere in Japan, taken as a white slave. She even gave a specific location in Japan, a place called Kokuro. Why she made such a bold statement is beyond me. She practically made her own storyline on what happened and how it all went down. In her own sick and twisted mind, it probably made some sense, but this did not help a grieving grandmother one bit. In fact, one could argue that it made it even worse. Now, Browne's prediction caused a great deal of controversy, with many people questioning her abilities as a psychic of all the times now. But true to her claims, Opal's remains at the time were not found, and the case remained unsolved for quite some time. Eventually, Opal's body was found, buried in Fort Worth in Texas. Pathologists concluded that she had been murdered the same day she went missing. A local man, Richard Lee Franks, who had a history with police, was a prime suspect. He was eventually convicted of Opal's murder and was convicted to a life in prison. The case of Opal Jo Jennings is a tragic example of a missing child case with false leads and inaccurate predictions.
But there are also some people she's hurt. For instance, on the Montel Williams show in 1999, Browne shared this information with the grandmother of a missing child named Opal Jo Jennings.
She's not dead, but what bothers me. Now, I've never heard of this before, but for some reason she was taken and put into some kind of slavery thing and taken into Japan.
4 years later, the little girl's remains were found near Fort Worth, Texas. An autopsy showed she was killed shortly after vanishing.
While Sylvia Browne claimed to have a special psychic abilities, her predictions in this case and in many others have been widely criticized as in being inaccurate and insensitive to the families of missing children. Browne was also criticized for making a political predictions that turned out to be fake. In 2004, she predicted that John Kerry would win the presidential election. When George W. Bush won the election, Browne claimed that the election had been stolen and that Kerry was the rightful winner. Apparently, in one of her books, The End of Days, she predicted female Democrat winning the presidential election, while in reality Barack Obama won. She was quite close at least. She also made a lot of smaller but in similar way in political predictions that turned out to be a lot of baloney. Ever heard of 9/11? Yep, you guessed it, she predicted it first. If only the government would have listened to her, how many lives could be saved today? Just imagine. There is no evidence that can back up this claim. She didn't mention it in any interview or book prior to the event. Who needs facts and reality when you can just make up stuff and hope people believe you? Oh yeah, did I mention that she predicted that the world would end around 2020? Yeah, she did say that, that's true. And again, I mean, I hate to be the one to spoil it to you, but sadly it didn't happen. What else was there worth mentioning? Oh yeah, one major thing in fact. The thing that made her somewhat believable was that she always claimed to have been working with law enforcement agents. But for some inexplicable reason, she forgot to mention that her working with the law enforcement agencies meant that she was in fact under the investigation of the said law enforcement agencies. But I mean, it's a potato, tomato situation again, right? In fact, in the documents, publicly available documents, they note that a self-proclaimed psychic was under the investigation of fraud, since all her media appearances, book tours, interviews, CD sales were bringing in the millions of dollars annually. She was of the interest of the FBI since she reported a fraudulent documents about income tax returns and financial statements in order to increase her net worth, which she subsequently used in order to get federal loans of over $1 million. So she basically falsified them in order to appear richer than she is to get easier loans. That's it. And yes, of course, there was an investigation into her foundation, the Nirvana Foundation for Psychic Research, the one she founded with her husband, Michael O'Leary. In 1992, the organization was investigated by the Internal Revenue Service for failing to file tax returns for several years. Browne and O'Leary ultimately agreed to pay $73,000 in back taxes and penalties. In addition, in 1996, the California Board of Equalization conducted an investigation into the Nirvana Foundation's sales tax practices, and the BOE found out that the organization had failed to report and pay sales taxes on certain merchandise sold to the public. And Browne and O'Leary agreed to pay $7,156 in back taxes and interest. Now, despite this mounting evidence against her, the Browne's followers remained loyal to her. They defended her inaccuracies and false predictions, claiming that she had helped them in their own lives and the messages from the dead gave them some kind of comfort. Why listen to the experts and evidence when you can just believe in whatever feels good, right? In response to criticism, Browne often lashed out at her critics, claiming that they were jealous of her success. She accused skeptics about being close-minded and afraid to confront the truth about the afterlife, because clearly the skeptics are the ones who are close-minded, not the person who claims to have superpowers. In the end, there will always be those who say, oh, at least she gave them hope. And to them I say, fuck you. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you liked this one. Took some time and effort into making it. Hope to see you on the next one. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Peace out.